The cabin in Blackwood Forest. It was supposed to be a simple weekend getaway. Emily, Mark, and Sarah had planned the trip to escape the pressures of city life and reconnect with nature. They rented a cabin deep in Blackwood Forest, a remote area known for its dense woods and serene lakes. The isolation was precisely what they were looking for, or so they thought. The drive to the cabin was uneventful, but as they ventured deeper into the forest, an uneasy feeling settled over them. The trees seemed to close in around them, their gnarled branches casting eerie shadows in the fading light. The cabin finally came into view, an old wooden structure with a sagging roof and darkened windows. It looked abandoned, but the keys were left under a weathered doormat as promised. Inside, the cabin was basic, but comfortable enough for their stay. They unpacked, lit a fire in the stone fireplace, and settled in for the night. As darkness fell, the forest around them came alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures. The distant hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves, and the occasional snap of a twig filled the air. It was around midnight when they first heard it, a low, rhythmic tapping. Emily, sitting closest to the window, glanced outside but saw nothing. "Probably just a branch hitting the cabin," she muttered, trying to dismiss the unease creeping up her spine. But the tapping continued, growing louder and more insistent. Mark decided to investigate. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but trees and underbrush. "Nothing out here," he called back to the others. "It's just the wind." As the night wore on, the tapping stopped, only to be replaced by a series of strange, almost melodic whispers. They seemed to emanate from the forest itself surrounding the cabin. Sarah, already on edge, suggested they all go to bed and get some sleep. Reluctantly, they agreed. Emily woke in the early hours, her heart pounding. The whispers had grown louder, more distinct. She could make out words now, though their meaning was unclear. She turned to wake Mark, but he was already sitting up, his eyes wide with fear. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Before Emily could respond, the cabin door creaked open. The hinges groaned as the door slowly swung inward, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. Sarah, now awake as well, clutched her blanket tightly. "Close the door," she urged. Mark stood and walked cautiously to the door. As he reached for the handle, a cold breeze blew through the cabin, extinguishing the fire and plunging them into darkness. The whispers grew louder, filling the cabin with their eerie chant. "We need to leave," Emily said, her voice shaking. They grabbed their things and rushed outside, only to find that the forest had changed. The trees, once familiar, now twisted and loomed over them, their branches like skeletal fingers. The path they had taken to the cabin was gone, replaced by an impenetrable wall of foliage. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped. The whispers followed them, growing louder with each step. They stumbled through the forest, trying to find a way out, but it was as if the woods themselves were conspiring to keep them there. As dawn approached, the whispers finally ceased. Exhausted and disoriented, they found themselves back at the cabin, its door still ajar. With no other options, they decided to wait until daylight to try again. Inside the cabin, they huddled together, their fear palpable. The fire refused to light, leaving them in the cold and dark. As they sat in silence, the whispers returned, this time accompanied by the soft sound of footsteps. They were not alone. The cabin door creaked open again, and a figure stepped inside. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its presence exuded a malevolent energy. The whispers rose to a deafening crescendo as the figure moved closer. Emily, Mark, and Sarah tried to scream, but no sound escaped their lips. The last thing they saw was the figure reaching out to them, its cold touch stealing the warmth from their bodies. The whispers enveloped them, and then there was nothing but darkness. Days later, when the search party arrived, they found the cabin empty. The belongings of Emily, Mark, and Sarah were scattered inside, but there was no sign of the three friends. The forest was silent, the whispers gone, but the locals knew better than to venture into Blackwood Forest after dark. The cabin remains there, waiting for the next unsuspecting visitors to stumble upon it, drawn by the promise of peace and tranquility. And the whispers, ever patient, are always ready to welcome them.